Questions and Chairperson Scoper. We have Mr. Dustin Davids with us. Mr. Davids, do you have any apologies? And everybody knows that this is a closed meeting.
Yes, Chairperson. Everyone, unfortunately, the Audit Committee Chairperson was not informed, Chairperson. Apologies for that. But everyone else has been informed, Chairperson. We just received one apology from Member Peter Johnson, Chairperson, for today's meeting by his PA.
Okay, but the AG is in the meeting. I see Mr. Ork is in the meeting.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Wessels?
Good day, Chairperson. Thanks. I just want to confirm that I'm the alternate member standing in for Member Johnson. Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let's do the introductions quickly. Members, you first.
Hi there, Chair. I'm Leon van Wyk, member of SCOPA. Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Benedicta van Minnen, a member of SCOPA.
Good afternoon, Chair and colleagues. Basil Petrus.
Good day, Chairperson. Derek Wessels, as previously mentioned, and I'm alternate member standing in for Member Johnson.
Good afternoon. I'm Member Nkonzo. I'm an alternate to the SCOPA.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Pat Lecker. I'm a member of SCOPA.
Thank you very much. That's all the members I can see. Is there any other? Let me just check. I don't think there's other members. Can we give over for introductions to the AG and the Audit Committee, please? Thank you. Over to you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, Honourable members. My name is Ashley Alkers. I'm from the Auditor General's office. Joanne, over to you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. I'm Joanne April, and I'm also from the Auditor General. I'm the Senior Manager. Rosemary and Annette.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. My name is Rosemary Jeftes. I'm the Audit Manager for the Mobility Department.
Afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Annette Craig. I am the Manager for the GMT Audit.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. I am Tsepo Mutlomi, Auditor General Office. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Peter Strauss. I'm the chairperson of the Audit Committee.
Thank you. Are you are you doing both GMT and the department, Mr. Strauss?
A positive, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much. Then we're going to start. I'll hand over to the Auditor General to give the briefing, and then I will ask our members to pose the questions. As we now know, we're skipping all that, and with the department, we're starting on page 5. Thank you very much. Over to you, AG.
Good afternoon again. I will be taking the members through the Mobility Department audit outcomes. For the summary of key messages, the department is commended for achieving its first unqualified audit opinion with no material findings outcomes since its establishment, and this is the second external audit cycle. The department improved its audit outcome by addressing the key audit findings of the prior year on predetermined objectives, as well as the strategic planning and budgeting compliance area. They are acknowledged for the improvements achieved. And to sustain and build on this progress, it is essential that internal controls over both financial and performance information are further embedded, because this will not only improve the accuracy and reliability of future financial statements and performance reports, but will also ensure continued compliance with applicable legislation. A material misstatement was noted in the annual performance report on the indicator number of vehicles stopped and checked. This misstatement was corrected. The department should, however, review the annual performance report for inconsistencies before it is submitted for audit. The department must develop a well-defined audit action plan. This should be monitored for implementation, and any shortcomings should be addressed that was identified during the audit in order to sustain the clean audit outcome. No material compliance findings were identified during the financial year. We do, however, encourage management to continue to monitor the overall good practices that they have implemented. The audit outcome history, this is the second year since the establishment. In the prior year, there was a material finding on compliance, which resulted in an unqualified with findings audit outcome. In the current year for the financial statements, it's unqualified, compliance, no material findings, and the performance report, no material findings. This is therefore an improvement in the audit outcome of the department. For compliance focus area, no material findings were raised on any of the compliance subject matters scoped into the audit. For the key focus area of performance information, I selected Program 2, Transport Operations, and Program 3, Transport Regulations, for audit as presented in the annual performance report. These two programs were selected as it measures the department's performance on its primary mandated functions and that are of significant national, community, or public interest. I did not identify any material findings on the reported performance information on these selected programs. I do draw attention to the matter below. There was a material misstatement identified in the annual performance report submitted for auditing. This misstatement was in Program 3, Transport Regulations. Management subsequently corrected all the misstatements, and therefore I did not include any material findings in this report. We also reported on the achievement of planned targets. The achievement of the key service delivery indicators is that in Program 2, 86% of the key service delivery indicators were achieved. In Program 3, 82% was achieved. And then the reasons for the underachievement of these targets are included in the annual report on pages 50 to 51 and 55 to 58. Program 2, the targets that were not achieved is indicated 2.2.1, number of routes subsidized. The indicators that were not achieved in program 3, transport regulations, is indicated 3.3.7 and then indicator 3.3.9. I did not identify any significant deficiencies in internal control. We only look at internal control relevant to the financial statements, annual performance report, and compliance with applicable legislation. However, we do not express any form of assurance on it. These are a summary of the key recommendations that were given to the head of the department in order to sustain their audit outcome in future. The first recommendation we made was that the financial reporting controls should be strengthened to ensure that the financial statements are fully aligned with any underlying schedules and supporting information. Then the filling of key positions in the supply chain management unit should be prioritized, and any SEM supply chain management documentation should be validated, and more training should be provided to the SEM user department. The second key recommendation we made was that an action plan should be developed and this should be implemented and to monitor, review, and verify the reported achievements within the annual performance report. Then there is also reports that the annual performance report is based upon, and any of these reports, whether system generated or manual, should be reconciled to the annual performance report before submission for audit purposes. With regards to material irregularities, we have not identified any material irregularities since the implementation of this process. Then we have a final request to the Standing Committee. We do request that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, in line with its oversight mandate, is encouraged to follow up with the MEC on the implementation of the committee's resolutions. We do feel that regular follow-up will strengthen oversight by enabling the committee to monitor progress and assess the adequacy of interventions, thus promoting a culture of compliance and good governance within the department. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much for the briefing. Members, over to you for questions. I don't see any hands. I don't see any hands. Can we move on, members?
Afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members. My name is Antoni Jans van Rensburg. I'm the Director for Fleet, Government Motor Transport, and the Acting Chief Director.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members. I'm Antoinette Fenny, Acting Director for Traffic Law Enforcement.
Afternoon, Chair. Afternoon, members. Jacqueline Tweedy, Acting Director, Traffic Training and Development.
Afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Leandria Mars here. I'm the Acting Director, Financial Management.
Afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Christian Clifford, Management Support Services GM.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Shoba Moodley, Acting Director, Supply Chain Management.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Bianca Hendricks, GMT Finance.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. My name is Kenneth Boyson. I'm the Director for Strategic Planning. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. I am Tina Lee Singh, Acting Director, Operational Management Support.
Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon, Chair. Nadeem Hendricks, Transport Operations. Thanks.
Good afternoon, members. Chair, Ricardo Collins, the Director, Land Transport Contracts.
HOD, is that everybody?
Chairperson, Antoine, let me just check. Antoinette and Shoba, did you introduce yourself?
Yes, HOD, we did.
All right. Then
We
are done. We'll introduce ourselves. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you and welcome to Scopa. I'm going to give the Minister opportunity to do introductory remarks, and then I'm going to give the HOD, and then I will then direct the meeting or how we're going to go forward. Thank you, Minister Seleko. Over to you.
Thank you once again, Chairperson, and thank you to the honorable members and everyone on the platform. Chair, as you can see, I brought the whole team to answer the difficult questions that you are going to ask as members of SCOPA. But also, Chair, we all know that we are in our second financial year of existence. We established within the year of 23-24. And I must say, we are very excited that within our second year, we're able to attain a clean audit without any findings. And that's just a step in the right direction in terms of good governance and also making sure that the money that we have, which is our public money, is used for the benefit of our residents in the Western Cape. And Chair, as a new department or as a young department, we are encouraged by what we have done and achieved in the last financial year, specifically when it comes to our processes in terms of making sure that the money is spent wisely and that our systems are in place, and that is a step in the right direction. And also, Chair, from the side of government, motor transport, it's their 13th clean audit. And I must say, we commend the work that they have been doing. They have been consistent for more than a decade now. And the question is, what's next? So with those few words, Chair, thank you very much once again for the opportunity to invite us as the Department of Mobility and our trading entity, which is GMT, to appear before you so that we can answer the question that you and the members would pose to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's my first year in the department. I've joined since August. So I must admit that I'm very fortunate to have joined a team that has achieved clean audit in their second year of existence, and that within the department we have GMT, which is on its 13th clean audit. Such an achievement shows that the organization that I've joined has a very strong foundation of effective governance, service delivery, and cohesion. On that note, I would like to congratulate the mobility team and thank you for giving us a platform to explain our report today. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Minister and HOD, for your introductory remarks. Members, you know, we've now have quite a bit of meetings of SCOPA, and I usually give direction. So we're doing the department first, and we're going to do part C, start from page 63 to 86, governance. Members, if you can please give the page number so that we can give the department opportunity to see where the question is. And secondly, I only allow 2 questions per member, and then also 3 members at a time, to be very reasonable with the department so that they can give us the answers, you know, as we request. So members, I'm going to allow you to ask for questions. Members, you work through the chair. Department, you work through the chair. We don't do any dialogues across the aisle. So can I just get some hands up for the first part of the department, governance, part C? Do I see any hands? I see the first hand is Member Nkontlo. Member Nkontlo, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon to the Minister, the HOD, and the team. Chair, my question starts with the key risks identified by the department. I want to ask the Minister in particular, given the unsustainable public transport services that has been raised as a risk, which I think the department identifies mainly the lack of legislative clarity. And I'm wondering whether the department has ignored also the cost of living that is increasing with an increasing population, which in majority is poor and working class, and therefore is unable to afford. Because it's one thing to deal with legislative clarity, it's another to also consider a perspective of the users of public transport, which actually are playing it themselves out when you look at where the traffic goes between the taxis, the buses, the trains, and the likes, in terms of spending capacity to spend. So that's just one issue that I just want to raise in as far it's on page 66 when it comes to the risks identified by the department.
Thank you.
Thank you. You said it's 2 questions, Chair.
Two. You can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. My second question, Chairperson, is on the. Let me just get the page. It's on page 81. I want the department to just clarify us under the summary of work done by the internal audit under the 3 bullets. The 3rd bullet indicates that there's only 1 of the 7 actions that would have been implemented under the reported year. So I would like to understand why is that the situation? If the department can share with us what are these other actions that were not implemented. That's my second question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Nkontlo. Member Pat Lecker, over to you.
No, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon once again. Chair, my first question is on page 67 under the risk. I think one part that I must commend is a fact that in page 66.
Member, you're breaking up. We heard page 66 now. You're breaking
Am
up
I too
badly.
soft?
You're breaking up badly.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
We can hear you now. Continue.
Chair, could be on page 67, but I think what I must commend is the fact that the department has been bold enough to mention that there's been issues of the spatial planning that seems to be an issue, particularly when it comes to public transport. And I think that it becomes very much important because if you look at the spatial planning, it requires a cooperation between various government departments that needed to address that. But coming to page 67, Chair, would be a question on road crashes. And what has been mentioned there is the fact that 50% of fatalities are pedestrian and non-motorized transport safety thus becomes a key. And I think that we fail to address, which in my view would be the fact that there's limited traffic officers on the road. The strip from the off-ramp to Port Botchet's Quarry and the off-ramp to Miway as you enter Site C, Site B. There's very little that is being done there. The presence of traffic officers, and as a result, you find people crossing the road willy-nilly without any systems that are there in place. And would be perhaps to get an understanding from the department how many vacancies within the law or the traffic enforcement. Not only is the public crossing the N2 willy-nilly, but the lack of observing the rules, including the laws, how drivers are driving, only in that strip leaves a lot to be desired. And therefore, maybe this does not only speak to the cooperation or cooperation, but rather the presence of law traffic enforcement on that road, not only there, but in many other roads. Then the second question, Chair, if you look at the accomplishment, and that is bullet 2 under conclusion, I want to understand, Chair, they say key accomplishment include review and monitoring of the ERM strategy and implementation plan, oversight of ethics and fraud risk mitigation. And I want to understand there, when we're talking of fraud and risk mitigation, in light of monitoring drivers and the behavior of drivers, what else is being done? Because I think there should be how drivers would sometimes be engaging in improper conduct, particularly when it comes to how they would want to comply with the law, but take shortcuts on the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think the just my one question, because I was covered by the other questions I wanted to ask, but the question I want to ask is on page 69, and that is your open cases. So the cases that is in the old financial year, but when you go to open cases 31st of March, there's still 2 cases. There's no cases in year under the period of review, but you still have open cases from the previous year. If we can just get an update on that, please. HOD, over to you, and then Minister, you can then just, when you want to add, you can add, but I'm working through the HOD, and Minister, you are free to comment whenever you want to. Thank you very much. HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. On the question of the vacancies, we do have a bit of a vacancies but we are currently working on getting most of the posts filled, especially it's level 6 to 7, 6 to 8. And then, but we have actively recruited and trained traffic officers. We will, in the next financial review our numbers and find out where we need to add more. So that process is in progress. I would now hand over to, there was a question about legislative clarity. I would like to hand over to the Chief Director, Godfrey, to handle the question on the legislation and possible answer to be provided on the public transport service by Chief Director Operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, HOD. Through you, Chair. I understood the question from, I think, Member Mkonto to relate to the cost of travel and unsustainable transport provision linked to illegal operations. Now, insofar as the cost of travel is concerned, I think it's a combination of many factors. Firstly, there is an oversupply of operators out there based on historical factors. Previously, the industry was unregulated, and so it becomes very much competitive. And the operators themselves, most of them don't actually have other means of income. So the taxi industry is considered to be that industry that provides a potential place in the economy to people less educated or less skilled. And due to this competition, it becomes less economic viable for operators to actually make a living in the industry. Hence, they resort to other means of actually up the income stream through, for example, plying their trade on illegal routes, invading the routes of other taxi associations, and some of them even starting operating without operating licenses. So the cost of a trip per passenger is then also a factor in which operators can try to make ends meet within an economic environment where we have high fuel prices and the cost of living obviously also being high for them as members of the public and as consumers themselves. So those are factors that actually cause travel cost per passenger to be so high, and the only way out of it would actually be to consider the option of subsidizing particularly the minibus taxi industry. By doing that, we would be able to reduce the cost that a passenger has to pay from their own pocket. And at the same time, we would also be able to address the fact that they would then not have to resort to all the illegal tactics to try and make money, because their businesses would make sufficient money for them to make ends meet. Now, in terms of regulations, yes, there are already several pieces of legislation dealing with illegal operations. In other words, operating without an operating license or deviating from a route. But the remedy provided for in the legislation is dependent on actual law enforcement. So while the regulations are there, we do not have sufficient numbers of law enforcement officers to enforce those regulations or those laws. And for that reason, the odds are in favor currently of operators who transgress the law. Just on the N2 in the morning, there are hundreds of minibus taxis that I personally witness. But similarly, I witness many law enforcement officers deployed on the N2. But the number of illegal operators passing or going on the N2 versus the number of law enforcement officers on that highway is completely unbalanced, meaning for every one that is caught, 99 might have passed. And so we will then have to address this through a combination of increased law enforcement and also considering the option of investing financially into the industry so as to ease the burden on the actual users of that service. Thank you.
HOD, you must direct who's answering next.
Yes, thanks. Sorry, Chair. Chief Director Ribonor, would you like to?
Thank you, HOD. Through you, Chairperson, I think that from the unsustainable PT perspective, Advocate Reid spoke to the users of public transport. And he brought in the issue around spatial distribution. So the further you live away from centers of opportunity, the higher the cost of public transport is. In terms of legislative uncertainty, what was being referred to there, Chair, is the fact, that was Member de Kondlo's question. That is around subsidization. The subsidization policy of National has come out fairly late. We've commented, but nothing further has happened there, as well as the devolution policy that's awaited. So that's the uncertainty being referenced there. Antoinette Fenny, the Director of Traffic Law Enforcement, can come in to speak to all the questions around pedestrian fatalities that Member Lekker raised. And that's really about the joint operations being dealt with the City of Cape Town. There was about 10 hotspots identified from a pedestrian fatality perspective that will now be armed jointly by city as well as province. In addition, from a spatial situation, we do know that in certain areas, a regional or national road divides community from opportunities. So we look at various options in terms of addressing this through pedestrian bridges with the necessary enforcement, because we do know that pedestrians get mugged on the pedestrian bridges. So we're well aware of that. We use with SANRAL, City of Cape Town, provincial DOI, we look at opportunities in terms of fencing, the ones that are not easily targeted by vandalism. So those are some of the things, but there may be additions that Ms. Fenny would want to make there, and then CFO will follow just in terms of the actions on page 81 in terms of the 7 actions and only 1 implemented. Thank you, Chair.
Through you, Chair, Ms. Ribbenard has partially covered it. So the issue with pedestrian fatality, specifically on the N2, there is resource constraints within traffic law enforcement to be able to enforce the fact that members of the public are not allowed on the freeway. Further to that, SAPS has got their own challenges relating to holding cells, which make it very difficult for NPA to prosecute. In response to that, we've had engagements with SAPS as well as the National Prosecuting Authority to implement an integrated project over the festive season period. This is aimed at removing pedestrians from the 10 pedestrians locations that Ms. Ribbenard referred to. These are targeted joint operations with the City of Cape Town. And in these locations, that would be R300, N2, R27, and certain areas within the province, like the Dorings, that has been highlighted. As she alluded to as well, the contributing factors remain spatial development patterns, where schools and essential services are often located on the opposite side of major roadways from where communities reside. So at this stage, road safety management in conjunction with traffic law enforcement and City of Cape Town, we have an integrated education and awareness program specifically for the communities around the R300 and the N2 to educate community members on the dangers of jaywalking and walking along the freeways. So the project has been implemented from 1 October, and it will run till end of January, of which we will monitor and see whether it was successful. But at this stage, based on predictive analysis, the 10 locations has been identified and the N2 is part of it. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, thank you. I've got 2 questions which I will address. First question is on page 81 about the 7 actions which were not implemented. They pertain to overload control and the overload control systems at weighbridges. We are working very closely with our sister department, the Department of Infrastructure, on these action items. They pertain to basically a user guide update for us as the department. There's also a reference to integration into the systems of the Western Cape Mobility Department, use of technology, for example, the handheld devices. And there's also a reference to, let's call it the memorandum of understanding between the 2 departments that must be finalized, given the extent and the implications of the specific management action areas. Our team is still busy with those actions. There's a question on page 69 pertaining to 2 open cases. Chairperson, from open cases from the 1st of April 2024 and still open at the end of March 2025. These 2 cases are rather extensive and complicated by its nature. Just a brief overview of them. The first one of the 2 was registered on the 2nd of June 2022. That pertains to fraudulent fuel purchases using GMT fuel cards or cloned fuel cards identified at specific service stations. So that investigation is still underway, given the multiple parties that basically are part of this investigation, extent of the documentation that is being exchanged. So that's the first one. The second one was registered on the 13th of December 2023. That pertains to a whistleblower report on alleged irregularities relating to the procurement of an IT application, and that process is still underway. So I can just mention we do have monthly meetings and update meetings with Provincial Forensic Services where updates are provided, and any matters that might add to the time frames of these investigations are cleared as quickly as possible. So those are those two cases. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think all the questions are answered. I see a member Basil Petrus. Minister, over to you first before I give the other members opportunity for a second round. Minister Seleko, over to you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. And I'm really glad that I'm able to answer this question. And firstly, Chair, one need to appreciate that as much as we are flagging some of the risks that are focused on public transport, it is indeed a concern for all of us in the Department of Mobility, because if one look at the statistics, they will say that 51% of our income as an individual has to go to public transport. And then there's an element of safety to the usage of public transport. But regardless of that, from the side of mobility, we are looking at how can we as mobility be of assistance to our residents in the province, and specifically for people that are in our rural areas. And one of the things that we are doing from the side of mobility is actually to support all the initiatives that has been undertaken by PRASA in terms of making sure that they recover some of the railway lines that have been damaged in the few years. And because it's important that PRASA, especially rail, must be the backbone of public transport. If we are able to assist and support the work that is done by PRASA, that will be able to assist the majority of our people in our province when it comes to public transport. And also from the side of the minibus taxi industry, there's a lot of initiatives that we have undertaken in terms of mediation, in training, and coming up with innovative ways so that we are able to deal with the element of trust in the minibus taxi industry, so that all of us, regardless of our status in community, that we can trust our public transport system. And also from the side of rural areas, we've just in the week launched a study or a case study for Intertown Rural Transport Solution. That has been a call during our SOPA debate in Beaufort West from the chief whip of the opposition, Member Barnes, where she was complaining about people from Mauriceburg that needs to go to Beaufort West to do their shopping and get their grants. So we are actually engaging on that study to say what opportunities do we have within our space of partnering with other people to make sure that we bring down the burden of public transport. So those are some of the initiatives that we are undertaking. And also, Chair, on the side of land use planning, and one is to appreciate that we are honest because we understand as much as the city, especially human settlements, is focused on inner city development. Some of our municipalities are still, developing human settlements in the same way that we have been developing in the last 20 years. That's why most of the people are staying far away where they work. So I think one need to acknowledge and appreciate the initiative and the boldness of Minister Summers in making sure that there's inner city development. When you are developing, areas closer where we work, which means brings down, the money that we need to spend on public transport. So more people will be able to walk to work, and more people will be able to cycle to work. So, and those are the kind of conversations that we are going to be having with municipalities, because in terms of the different integrated transport plans and a comprehensive transport plans, we will be supporting them. So they must be able to see our vision in terms of making sure that we lessen the burden on our commuters when it comes to public transport. Thank you very much, Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. Let me just hear, Member Peters, just 1 minute. I just want to hear from Member Nkonto and Member Lecker if there's follow-up questions or is it new questions? Member Nkonto, is it a follow-up or new question?
One is a follow-up and then another is a new question.
Okay, you can do your follow-up, Member Lekker.
Follow up and a new question, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to give just the two of you opportunity to do your follow-ups. Leave your new question. Then we're going to start with Member Petrus, then Member Lekker, then Member Kontlo with a new round. But I'm just allowing for Member Kontlo, Member Lekker, just to do your follow-up so that we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think it was the Chief Director, if I'm not mistaken, on my question. He speaks about the oversupply of the taxes. And one is interested whether there is information or data that could actually help point to this oversupply that is referred to show us which areas actually is this oversupply that he is referring to. And I think for me, I think that's the follow-up that I'm interested in. And hopefully that even the illegal operators, I'm not sure whether the department does have data of these illegal operators, where do they exist, what drives this illegal operation. So I just wanted follow up on that, Chair, and a request of that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Lekker, your follow-up.
Thank you, Chairperson. In response to the question that I have asked with regards to the vacancies, I would like to get an understanding, Chair, because I think what is important is if you've got vacancies being filled, it means there's going to be people on the road that will ensure that there's compliance, particularly in line with the rules of engagement. So I'm really interested in knowing as to what's the total number of the vacancies and by when can these vacancies can be filled, because I can imagine the mess that we're going to find ourselves in as motorists as and when the festive season starts. If we're having problems now, and when the festive season starts, there's definitely going to be a nightmare. So I want to know how many vacancies in total. We're just told there's level 6, level 7 vacancies. I want to know how many and by when can these vacancies will be filled so that we mitigate any unexpected incidents on the road and compliance thereof.
No, thank you. I think that is clear enough. The HOD only said level 6 to 8, but you want to know the number of vacancies and you also want to know when it will be filled. HOD, Member Peters, the new round, I'm going to let you go first and then I'll let Member Lekker and Lekort go after you. I just want to deal with the follow-up quickly. HOD?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so the total of the organization is currently 9.9% is the vacancy rate. We have a total active posts of 1,233 and posts to be filled is posts that are filled is 1,111. In the case of level 6 to 8, where we've got about 731 posts filled against 792 active posts, which leaves us with about 61 posts to be filled. Specifically on the traffic law enforcement, Antoinette, do you want to give some further figures?
Through you, Chair. With regards to traffic law enforcement, we're in the process of filling 119 cadet traffic officer posts to permanent positions, and that will happen by 1st of April.
Thank you. We still need a response on Member Kolner's follow-up, HOD.
Sorry, there were questions about the oversupply of taxis and the illegal operators. This I would hand over to Chief Director Regulations to assist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, HOD, through you, Chair. Just for the information of the members, supply and demand are determined by the local authority. In the metro, it means the city of Cape Town. As the Department of the Mobility, we then issue operating licenses according to the supply and demand identified by the local authority. Now, I did mention that the industry was previously unregulated or less regulated. And so we have inherited much of the oversupply in respect of some routes. I must emphasize not all the routes, but there are some of the routes that we have oversupply of vehicles. The city has similarly identified this as a problem and is currently busy with what they call the cleaning up of their route book. So the idea is that as current operating licenses are converted from indefinite to definite operating licenses per the amended legislation, we will at some point have an opportunity to not renew those operating licenses when they come to the end of their term, being 7 years. So at the moment, many of the operating licenses are out there indefinitely, but per new legislation, they are now compelled to convert those operating licenses within a period of 2 years to operating licenses that will lapse within 7 years. That gives a government leverage to have better control over supply and demand, because it means that through its integrated transport plans, government can then decide what the actual demand is and only renew or grant operating licenses in accordance to what would be justifiable. Is there data available in respect of which routes do we have an oversupply? Yes, there is data available, but that data resides with the city. Do we have information relating to the number of illegal operators? No. As the Department of Mobility, through the Office of the Taxi Registrar, we only keep record of the registered taxi associations, and through the PRE, we only keep record of those legal operators. And so we don't have data relating to either illegal taxi associations or illegal taxi operators. Those statistics one will probably get from law enforcement, but even that will have to be, some calculations need to be done to try and get to a number, which is actually a moving target, if you ask me. Just again, for information of the members, this program by the city is called the SRP program, a special regulatory process, which has different phases. As part of the supply and demand exercise, the city has looked at dormant operating licenses or dormant permits with a view of subtracting that number from what they might have on the record as operating licenses being out there. And once those dormant licenses are cancelled, it would open up spaces for new operating licenses should there be a need. Alternatively, the cancelled operating licenses could be used to balance supply versus demand. The city is also looking at new routes as we have new developments as a way to, on the one hand, provide access to the economy to people who want to provide public transport as a service, but also to ensure that there is not a concentration of operators who want to operate on the same route. And rather, if there are more routes available, then you can spread them out. So the city has advertised X number of additional routes. It is in a consultation process with the industry. So all in all, an answer as to who's responsible for supply and demand and where the data resides, I must say that actually is a role played by the city and not by the province. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give Minister Seleko opportunity just to respond, and then we'll move to new questions. Member Seleko, Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. It's okay, members, no problem there. No, let's just, I was worried when Member Lekker said that we are going to find ourselves in a mess, specifically when we are heading to the festive season. And I must share this and with confidence that with the limited resources that we have, we were able to see a decline in terms of road fatalities in the last festive season, which was about 15%. Because we came to accept and understand that when it comes to resources, you will never have enough, because everything is all about the money, and we are competing with other departments as well from the side of mobility. But how did we counter that from the side of mobility? After the festive season, I went throughout the whole province and I engaged with all our regions, and I had a round table discussion in terms of safety. Because what we picked up is that everyone is doing their own thing and we don't have resources. So what we want to have is that we need to come to a level where we're going to put all our resources in one pot, and then we are able to see more impact. And so the results that you see is not because of us in terms of traffic law enforcement, it's because of our integrated operations with the City of Cape Town, with our different municipalities, with SAPS, with National, because National also, gave us some traffic officers that were in our province for the duration of the festive season. And also what mechanism that we bring in between us and the National Department of Transport, specifically under the leadership of the Minister and the Deputy Minister. Whenever we engage on festive season operations, there's weekly briefings where all provinces have to give report in the number of their fatalities and what are the plans that they are actually implementing to bring the numbers down. So regardless of the constraints in terms of resources, we try our utmost best to integrate and to cooperate with our different municipalities, because that's the only way we can be able to bring our numbers down. And the results are there. They show we saw a decline because we're able to work together and club with our resources. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. We will see some of our resolutions. We'll get some of the information through our resolutions, I think. Member Petrus, over to you for your question. Thank you for being so patient.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair, it is with reference to the statement of the Minister and the report of the CEO on pages 6, 9, and 66. Now, Chairperson, the Japti N project is in George, known as the Go George, is in existence now for more than 10 years. And still there's no CEO and there's no independent directors. And the second question is phase 4A from Tembale to George Central in the mall is still not rolled out. What are they going to do about that, and what is the reason it is still not rolled out?
Thank you, Member Kondo.
My new questions, Chair. On page 82, under the composition of the audit committee, I just want to get clarity from the department which table 34 is being referenced there that explains the composition of the audit committee. We tried to ask this question to the internal audit and were referred to the department. So maybe the department can help me understand that of where this composition is explained. Then my next question, Chair, is on page 84 under activities of the internal audit function. If the department can just share with us under the assurance engagements referred to there, particularly on the value for money and the transfer payment on dial-a-ride, what exactly did this assurance engagement look at and revealed to the internal audit? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Pat Lecker.
Thank you, Chair. My question is on page 70, starting from page 72 and 73. Looking at the attacks, particularly on government motor vehicles, I want to get an understanding, Chair, when it comes to policies that are in place. What sort of policies do we have that will probably lead to how we operate or how officials or various departments who are in possession of government motor vehicles can assist in mitigating, particularly the targeting of government motor vehicles? I'll tell you why, Chair, because in my thinking, I would have thought government motor vehicles are identified from afar because they've got that GN. Has there been a thinking in maybe changing the policies that are in place, instead of having your number G at the end, you go back in where you will have your Charlie Alpha kind of registration numbers, just to mitigate that and see how far then we would then go in protecting those officials and departments that are utilizing government vehicles. I'm just at the policies as well as the standard operating procedures of those motor vehicles. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I think there were quite a lot of questions on Go George, the CEO, the appointment of CEO and the independent directors. I would hand over such questions related to operationalization of Go George to Chief Director Operations. In terms of a question relating to audit committee composition, that would be on page 83. Table 35 has got information on audit committee members with name, surname, qualification, professional affiliation, all of the details. I'm not too sure if this is what the member Nkonlo is looking for. Dial Ride would also be Chief Director Operations. And then in terms of safety of officials using GMT motor vehicles, I would hand over to Acting Chief Director at the GMT. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Through you, just to deal with Member Beatrice's questions around Go George. So firstly, the appointment of the CEO and non-independent executive directors. At the previous AGM held of George Link, all shareholders unanimously agreed not to appoint a CEO and the non-independent members. That's for the year under review. They just held another AGM in the start of October, where they elected to not make those appointments until the new contract. If they are given the new contract, they will then reconsider that decision. But it is a company decision. We do perform oversight from a governance. We get their annual financial statements around just the health of the company. So we are very satisfied with that, Chairperson. In terms of Tembeletu and the further roll out to the mall, there's 2 phases of the 4-phase roll out to Tembeletu, Member Beatrice. We need an additional 25 buses to do that roll out, which we don't have at the moment. We've put a funding request to the National Department of Transport for funding for additional buses to do those rollouts. Therefore, we elected to use this minimal spare capacity to consider a Uniondale rollout, something that doesn't require as much vehicles to roll out. What also makes it quite difficult in terms of the Tembeletu to CBD and mall rollout is that right now there's a lot of construction happening in Tembeletu. We've really focused a lot of the 482 million that was provided to George for infrastructure upgrades in the year under review to focus on Tembeletu. So therefore, the existing fleet that we have or spare capacity is sent in the morning peak into Tembeletu, so that I think it's about 17 buses, so that our on time and people can get to the employment opportunities on time, Member Beatrice, remembering that Tembeletu has that only one access road at the moment. So I'm hoping that deals with your questions around the appointments and also operationally around phase 4A.
Dear Rach, you can also speak to the question related to Dial Ride.
So in terms of Dial Ride HUD, yes, we in the year under review, we've obviously transferred 10 million rand. The total cost in the year under review was 28 million rand for the service. There was over 3,000 people registered on the platform. There is around 250 approximate daily passengers that uses the service for work and to get to health services. We have monthly meetings with the city from an operational compliance perspective. We look at the efficiencies that's being introduced in the service. So from a value for money perspective, on-demand services like Dial Ride is technically a lot more expensive than the normal scheduled part of the service in terms of My City. So you want to get to a point where you integrate these services, Member Nokondlo. Thank you.
HOD, there's still outstanding questions.
Yes, Chairperson. Anthony, can you please provide clarity on the question of safety of using GG vehicles?
Thank you, HOD. Through the Chairperson. From the GMT side, we've definitely collaborated with the client departments, and as mentioned, one of the first initiatives that we've undertaken was to change the registration or the number plate on the vehicles from the GG number plate to CAA number plate. So as client departments identified vehicles in higher risk areas, we made plans with them, for example, the Department of Health and Wellness, Department of Agriculture, Department of Social Development, and others. And we have basically changed a lot of these vehicles' number plates to CAA numbers. Secondly, we also worked on another initiative, and that is actually because the yellow background of the number plate is quite a recognition point. We also started a proof of concept to change that background to a white background color on the number plate. And we also worked on a third initiative, and that is to change the color of the vehicles. So we've bought a couple of vehicles as a proof of concept to sort of move away from the traditional white color vehicles to other colors like silver and say dark gray, some reds and some blues to sort of make these vehicles less visible. We've also started on an initiative to buy different models, not say the conventional type of vehicles like Volkswagen Polos, Toyota Corollas, Hyundai vehicles, some Ford vehicles, but actually to look at the Isuzu vehicles and some of the other brands as well to see what successes we can have from that. In terms of policy, we've changed these policies as mentioned to change the registration. We are working with client departments on awareness sessions in terms of what would be the do's and don'ts to be more assertive, that when you drive in certain areas or maybe if you sort of get the feeling that you might be pursued, there's certain do's and don'ts. In our vehicles, we also have panic buttons fitted to these vehicles that should you find yourself in a potential hijacking situation and it is safe to press the button, and that will send the alarm to the vehicle tracking company, and then they will use mechanisms like recovery units and cooperation with the South African Police Services to basically track these vehicles and try and intervene safely. So that's some of it what we've done. We've also had workshops with police, especially in the Khayelitsha area, being a high-risk area. The police station at Linguletu West, they've been very accommodating in terms of protocols that they provide, in terms of how we should manage these vehicles in the high-risk areas, and we've actually drafted that also in a circular. They also even offered to assist by escorting government vehicles into the area by sort of making appointments with the police station, and then they will provide escorts as far as possible. So a lot has been done, and we're constantly working with the client departments to see how we can step that up or to change our modus operandi to make it as safe as possible for our clients and our officials using those vehicles. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's all the questions. I think HOD, the member on Konto, just one moment. I'm going to give you opportunity now. HOD, I think member Konto spoke about the composition of the audit committee. You on the page 82, it says refer to table 34, but it's table 35. It's not table 34. I think that because she was saying where's the composition, but it's table 35 when it describes the composition of the audit committee. So it's not table 34, but table 35. I think that is what she's referring to. Thank you. Thank you very much. Member Petrus?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm not satisfied with the answer that I get. They can't get away with this. This is government money, Chair. And we can't just throw money into that project and they tell us they will not put in place certain agreements that was reached when they established this. So we must look into that, Chairperson. And Scopa, we must ask for a report on the money they spent now on the infrastructure, where they spent that money and the amount of money that they spent.
Thank you. We can look at our resolutions. I think the department answered. We can look at the resolutions and maybe you can make some suggestions there. Thank you very much. Members, we're going to move on. Is there any questions on governance? Can we move on to, members, can we move on to the next section? And that's part E, PFMA for the department. That is compliance report. That is 125 to 134. Members, do I have any questions? Member Lekker, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my question is on page 1 is on page 130 on table B under the details of other material losses. I want to check. There has been GG vehicles that has been damaged or been in an accident. There's 125 cases that are cited here. And I want to check for the current financial year, under the losses, has there been any instances where probably there was somebody who have been found to have been negligent, and how much have we recovered out of those 125 cases? The second one, Chair, is on page 131 on late payments report 2024-2025. And I want to understand, Chairperson, from the department, what systems are there in place in ensuring that what we see here does not happen? Because if I'm looking at this, some has got to do with documents being misplaced or unrecorded, IT system issues. And I want to understand, in terms of our systems, how user-friendly our systems are, including the reporting mechanisms of who does what, when, and how, and who supervised who in terms of what I see here under the late payments starting from June 2024 up until March 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Lekker. Member Petrus.
Thank you again, Chairperson. Page 132, Chair. On top, Pegasus and Zutari. I see there's new limited bids, Chairperson. Can we get an explanation on what is it about? And then for how many years are these two companies are they working for the department? And are they also working for Go George?
Thank you, Member Petrus. Member Nkontlo.
Thank you, Chair. On page 132, on the procurement by other means, I'm interested for the department to explain to us what are the reasons behind limited bidding. What is peculiar? What would have driven them to do limited bidding of these particular contracts? And I'm also, Chair, very much interested of the two contracts which are all actually having the same contract number. That is the Zutari and the mediation first. Whilst these are two different, as written here, two different projects, and even the services as written there are different, but the contract number is the same.
Thank you. I'm going to get you now, but Member Kondo, you said Satari is MLB 1324, and you say mediation first is MLB 1424. Which one are you referring to?
My apologies, Chair. I was referring actually to Pegasus and Zutari. They are having the same contract number as two different suppliers. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that
correction. I'm with you. I just, before the HUD answers, I just want to, Member Lecker, of course, now jumped ahead of me with the payments not paid, payments paid after 30 days. But I want to compliment the department for last year. We were asking departments, please, to give us, like the department has done now of mobility, give us the reasons why you did not pay. So they've got a page there explaining the reasons. So thank you very much. Last year we asked departments to do that, and I see it's done. So thank you for that. I'm going to give over to the HOD for and direct the questions to who's going to answer. Thank you, HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. On the question of accidents involving GG vehicle and whether there's consequence management if there was negligence detected, Anthony will be able to take that question. Late payments and to supplier, I would hand over to Rian to answer. In the case of limited bids, these pertain mostly to our operations, and Chief Director Robinal should be able to provide explanation on all of the operational requirements that require these service providers. So we're going to start with Anthony and then Rian and then Deirdre. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD. Through the chairperson, I think it would just be sort of justified just to mention that between GMT and the client departments, there are obviously close collaboration on accidents and losses. And when it's sort of in the arena of disciplinary action, then it would sort of step more towards the client department being the employer of the responsible driver to initiate the disciplinary action. So should the client department take potential action, GMT would offer the case study material. We would potentially testify in disciplinary hearings and render support. The outcome or sort of the decisions taken in these disciplinary actions, that is actually vested with the client department. So I might need to call on the CFO for mobility to maybe just assist me on the potential disciplinary cases that might be underway within mobility. CFO, if I might call on you.
Thank you, Anthony. Yes, I actually wanted to jump in and assist with that answer. On page 130, the 125 cases is still under investigation. So once those are finalized, then we get to a position where consequence management is applied. It's quite an extensive list if we take the 44. So basically, there's various outcomes to that. So people are found guilty, disciplinary action is implemented either through verbal warnings, written warnings, etc. So yes, we've got a full list of that. Should the committee want, we can provide that. But the cases of the 125, those are basically under investigation as we speak. On the matter about on page 131, Chairperson, you would note the reason for late payment. the core and the root cause for those you would see is off-system items or off-system related, let's call it reasons. So we've got a workflow in process, which I would imagine is similar because the systems that we use is BAS and Logos. As soon as we receive an invoice and the invoice is directed to the relevant buyer in the department, I'm not going to go into the whole matter about budget availability, confirmation of goods and services rendered, because that's part and parcel of the process. But as soon as the invoice is, the process that we've got is, as soon as the invoice is received, the buyer confirms that those goods and services were rendered in good service, according to the specifications. It's registered on those systems that we've spoken about, and that gives us a clear indication, as you could see on the third column, of how many days we've got left until we need to pay. So from a root cause perspective, if we look at, for example, invoices misplaced, unrecorded, those would be those type of reasons. We have user training. We've got the normal processes associated to payments, which is very sensitive. By example, we've got segregation of duties, we've got access control, physical and manual access controls, the system access controls. We've got independent reviews according to our delegations that we need to basically compile the invoice back for payment. Then we've got reconciliations which we perform as part of our normal month-end and IYM processes that we report on. And then finally, those are then reported. So from that perspective, we've got quite a comprehensive list, and I just want to mention, given the total amount that we've paid through the system, 4.7 billion, 8,321 invoices paid in total. I think, I know it's not ideal, but I think it is quite the 12 invoices. We will work on that, but given the total quantum and the extent of the department, I think it's quite a bit of a positive view from what we've got. Chairperson, thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Through you, I'm going to deal with page 132. I'm going to try and deal with Member Nkondlo as well as Member Pieters's questions around MLB 1324, the Pegasus and Zutari. That is one contract that's gone into for the George Integrated Public Transport Network, so GIPTN. As Member Pietrus will remember, we fondly call that service. So in terms of the Go George system, in 2011, the department signed an intergovernmental agreement and finance agreement with George Municipality. George Municipality, as a B municipality, could never afford dealing with an IPTN of this size and cost. So therefore, the Provincial Department of then Transport and Public Works, and now the Mobility Department, is responsible for providing the necessary capacity for implementation and management of the GIPTN. Now, moving forward to, I think it was 2016, we have a capacity building and transfer program. George Municipality struggled with finalizing the organizational development. They also struggled with the necessary resources for some of the capacity in-house. We were then still responsible for providing the support. So national government, and I have to mention that in our last two bilaterals, as well as the engagements with the National DOT and all 13 cities, we engaged on what has worked, what is the lessons learned, and what do we take forward into the next sort of term. And that is about continuity, members. So in terms of Pegasus and Zutari, it was felt that why George is the most operationally successful is because we don't change the teams that deal with infrastructure, planning, infrastructure, implementation, and management. So that's Zutari. Pegasus deals with the contractual matters, the finance, and the governance. Even in the Department of Mobility as it stands now, we have one person that is permanently appointed to deal with GIPTN, and then we have 6 officials from Cape Town that assist with the management in George, because the idea was to transition to the George municipality in terms of the contact management. So continuity is the reason we go, and we have been successful because we don't waste. It takes about 6 months to bring on board a new service provider, and that is largely with most of the contracts. So National is going to develop regulations that allows provinces as well, if they are supporting local government, to go through a PFMA Section 33 and an MFMA Section 66 process for long-term appointments of the service providers in this particular sector when it comes to BRT. This contracts with Pegasus and Zutari will end, I think it is March 2026, because the first 12 years will be done in December 2025. So we factored in a transition period for those particular contracts. The next limited bid contracts that we also need to raise is MLB 2023 and MLB 2123. It is the monitoring of Golden Arrow. So you will see there's TESS and Route Master. At this point, again, engaging with the National DOT and all provinces that's dealing with what's called old order contracts. So Golden Arrow, Patco, up at in Gauteng as examples. The monitoring firms become very important. The institutional knowledge, so it's 1%, I think actually now it's 1.5% we use of our budget to manage 1.3 billion. So 1%, 1.5% is not a big amount to manage these contracts, but the continuity in terms of what's happening with My City Phase 2A. It's very important that when we engage and transition from Golden Arrow to My City, that we have continuity and we have teams that understand the services rendered by Golden Arrow, what is going to come in terms of Phase 2A of My City. So members, just in terms of limited bids in this space, you can understand that having new service providers that don't have all the operational understanding of these contracts, networks, operations, it becomes very important to keep going and making sure that the transition to Phase 2A is seamless. I'm hoping that just in terms of those two limited bid contracts, both George and the public transport operations grant has been dealt with. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Member Lekker, is that a follow-up? Member Kontlo, Member Lekker, is that a follow-up? Is that an older legacy hand follow-up?
Okay, legacy hand.
Thank you. Member Kontlo, over to you. Follow-up?
Yes, Chair. Chair, yes.
Go. Can I just, Member Kontlo, before you do the follow-up, I'm just going to give Minister Seleko opportunity to, because he just want to add on, and then you can have your follow-up.
Okay.
Thank you, Minister. Over to you.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to Deirdre for the explanation. Chair, I must say the question of unlimited bids has been raised on several platforms, even from the side of the standing committee, as much as one would understand as to why one would go that route. When the HOD was appointed, I said to her she must really look at phasing out some of the limited bids and looking at internal capacity so that we can also capacitate our own in terms of, because it's becoming an issue and is putting us as a department under a lot of pressure. And if a service provider must be given an opportunity to render a service, then it must be a transparent process, and it should not, unless there are really, convincing conditions as to why one would go that route. So from the side of the ministry, as much as I'm not involved in procurement processes, and I've been advised to stay away from it, I've raised it with the HOD, that the HOD must actually look at it, so that whenever questions are asked, we are able to respond without hiding anything. So those are processes that are in place, and surely that you will see our commitment in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Over to you, Member Nkondlo.
No, thank you, Chair. Actually, I would applaud the minister, and I think I want to agree with him fully. Whilst we take note that even the PFMA, National Treasury, in terms of public procurement, limited bidding is allowed, but it is allowed under special circumstances. And those circumstances indeed must be special, because the primary thing we ought to do is to provide a competitive bidding process as required by the basic principles of PFMA and public procurement. Because what we seek to avoid is the capture of government department, government contracting, on the basis that, no, this one, they know the system. For me, that is a very dangerous place to actually be operating from, especially on procurement. We are sitting with problems that are televised on a daily around how the state procures goods and services in the public domain, and how the interaction between the state officials, the politicians, together, with those that are outside of the state. So I'm very worried, Chair, because for me, I would want to understand from the department, if indeed, because this in any way sounds like an extension. You are saying because these people, they understand this system better, they must rather continue instead of providing a pool of bidders that actually may even provide you, a better service. And by bidding competitively, they could actually even bring new ideas, new technologies. The danger now of saying, no, they understand the system and therefore they provide stability is actually a dangerous space to be at. I'm actually very worried, Chair. I'm very worried with this particular explanation of both Go George on one hand and my city, because the explanation we are given is that in both of these BRT projects that are implemented in the province, we are taking this particular route of saying a new limited bid. And for me, what is the justification of them being limited is actually not making sense if you then have to juxtapose against the principle of competitive bidding. So that is just my comment. I hear what the chief director is explaining, but for me, until you provide something outside of the fact that these people understand the system. So if they understand the system, it means nobody else can understand the system other than themselves. This is what also is happening with the other BRT systems that are being implemented elsewhere, both in terms of BRT or even outside of BRT. What would have been this, in your market research or market analysis that will tell you that there is nobody else other than Pegasus who can actually provide this particular service, and therefore it must be them to ensure stability. It just cannot fly, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Nkondlo. Member Petrus.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. This is very serious to us, and I will say thank you to the Minister. Step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, we're going to move on. We're moving to financial information. And we're moving to page 135 to 197. I'm going to give members opportunity to pose your questions. Member Peters, is that a new hand or a legacy hand?
New hand, Chair.
Go ahead. We're on financial information. Over to you, Member Peters.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Will be quick. It's 149, Chair, 4.3. It's an underspending there of the EPWP fund. And then 162, Chairperson, also unspent funds, the City of Cape Town in the public transport facility project. Can you have an explanation on that, Chair? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to bring in page 174, and that is 174. There is claims against the department, unlawful arrest. And I know if you go then to Annex 2, you'll get the details there. If we can just have some explanation on that. Member Nkontla, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, on page 148 to 149, Chair, can the department just explain, the relationship between the underspending in program 3 on COE and what is written as surplus of the money that is surrendered to the PRE? Is it the same amount that is referred to page 148? And actually, they must just explain to us what are these delays, of filling vacancies, whilst we keep on, the same department talking about challenges of law enforcement officers on the other. So, what is the delay in appointments? And secondly, Chair, in as far as what the department, I think, raised on the integrated transport plan, also where there is an underspending, they did not initiate an open tender process due to insufficient available funding. I'm not understanding this, because also it says there's a project scope that could not be initiated. I would not be sure, because my assumption is that this would have been a project that would have been in program 1 in as far as the annual plan is concerned. And at what point would the department then later understood that, one, they do not have sufficient funding for this ITP project, but also that the project scope could not be initiated. Maybe they can explain to us what do they mean about this in page 148. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. On the underspending of EPW fund, which is conditional grant, I'm going to have to hand over to the CFO, Ryan, to give more explanation. In the case of that would also link to unspent public transport facility projects. If Deirdre can assist us on that one, as well as with the one of integrated transport plan. In the case of underspending in program 3, that would be the chief director for program 3 and Antoinette. Claims about unlawful arrest also would be Rian, unless it should be program 3. Thank you very much.
Chairperson, through you, I'll start off with the EPWP explanation. So basically, that 765,000 that we underspent. The EPWP, when we invite participants, has certain program conditions attached to it. So, for example, participants must be registered for COIDA, UIF contributions, etc. And really, to be part of it and to receive that payment, those requirements needs to be met. So we had a dependency on the participants, and that let's call it non-compliance by the participants was higher, and it took longer to resolve, and that's why we couldn't spend the 765 as we originally anticipated. The question about the surrender of funds, yes, 12.7 million was surrendered to the PRF, and basically it's due to the delays of the filling of posts. Some of the aspects that we found is the recruitment processes take longer than what we anticipate. It varies in reasons, the composition of panels to assemble the panels to meet. It's quite an extensive process, and that's what we found during that process. So it's not just for program 3, it pertains to program 1 and 2 as well. So it's transversal within the department. HD, thanks. I think I addressed those 2 questions.
Thanks, HD, through the chairperson. In terms of the underspend, that's the public transport interchange inspected unit that it's money we send to the city of Cape Town. What happened, there was a break of 6 months as the city of Cape Town didn't have sufficient funding to take the project forward. They lost about 20 of their officers in that period. So there was a delay in appointing more officers. These are officers specifically assigned to public transport and not to just normal enforcement measures. And they have to go to every one of the 142 public transport interchanges in the metro. So there was that delay with the appointment of staff from the city of Cape Town. So it's money we transfer, and that was the reason for the delay or the underspending, chairperson.
Thank you, Deirdre. Did you actually also, can we talk about the underspending, Antoinette, in the appointment of the traffic law officers, enforcement officers?
Through you, Chair, yes, actually. So with regards to 2023-24, we have trained 119 traffic officers, student traffic officers. DPSA policy has then changed because previous years we could absorb them automatically within the system. This time around, they indicated that as per the DPSA policy, they need to apply for the post, and they also need to have 1 year practical experience. That put us on the back burner in terms of not being able to automatically appoint these traffic officers. What we then did as the department, we appointed them on contract for a year to be able to give them that practical experience for a year and to also provide them with an opportunity now to compete for those posts through recruitment processes. Thank you.
Actually,
Yes.
I'm still waiting for page 174, the claims against the department, unlawful arrest, annexure 2.
Oh, yes. Could Godfrey or regulations help us on this one, or is it Antoinette herself?
Through you, Chair. So with regards to unlawful arrest, there has been a few that we've received civil claims for the department. We have identified in terms of the ones that was reported or finalized that there is some training needs that was identified. We do not leave it there in terms of just a civil claim. We also refer those cases to employee relations to be able to independently investigate that to find out whether there's obviously negligence on the side of the traffic officer. Those cases will then follow the disciplinary processes as per the presiding officer and the outcome of that disciplinary. We've also then furthermore integrated with traffic training and development to look at specific cases and in terms of the technicalities with regards to those arrests. So we've got refresher training ongoing, and we've also implemented integrated blended approach in terms of Moodle to actually reach all our traffic officers out there to just highlight and also ensure that when they execute the Criminal Procedure Act, that in terms of, the technicalities that they follow those processes to mitigate the civil claims against the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Member Petrus, I see you've got a follow-up. Member Petrus, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, on page, I don't know if I missed it, but on page 191, Chair, at the bottom, there's no Eden District Municipality anymore, Chair. It's now Garden Road. 191.
Okay, so it's a comment that you're making that there's no more.
And
Okay.
then there on the top,
Yes.
it is George Integrated Public Transport Network. I think that's a grant. Can they explain that to us, please?
Thank you, Member Petrus. Member Kondlo.
Yes, Chair. Chair, it's a new question.
You can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. On page 191, I just want the department to just explain if I'm reading this correctly on the grant allocation and the spending. I see that with Go George, at the time, 57% of these funds were still available and not spent, including 100% of what was given to the City of Cape Town for persons with special needs. I'm not sure if they can explain that, especially those that have not spent the allocated funds, maybe to give us context of why this happened.
Thank you very much, Member Kondlo. HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chief Director Operations will provide answer on the question on page 191 regarding Go George and underspent of Go George going to City of Cape Town. I think between Rian and Deirdre, they should be able to give further context. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD, through you, Chairperson. In terms of the Go George, 57% spend at the time of reporting, we receive the national grant, and obviously George receives our grant. So with the difference in the 3 financial years, Member Nkondlo, we ask that they spend the national grant because we only have to spend up until the end of June. We have to spend all grant expenditure. It was in that financial year, it was by the end of June, when the municipal year's financial year closes, 100% of our grant was spent. In terms of the City of Cape Town dial-a-ride, it's only the City of Cape Town and ourselves that provide input to that particular service. So they first spend the provincial allocation before they use their own money, and therefore dial-a-ride was spent first. So with George and the City of Cape Town, because we have national money coming in for George, we use the 3 months in the difference between financial years. But at the end of June 2025, that was 100% spent. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. That answers all the questions. Members, is there any further questions? Can we close the book of the department and move over to GMT? We're going to take a 2-minute break and then we'll just go over to GMT. We're sitting from 2 o'clock already. So 2-minute break, 3-minute break, members, maximum, and then we'll go and start with a GMT. Thank you, everybody. I hope those officials that is not needed with GMT has left. Also, HOD, I hope that's not needed left. But we're going to continue now. I just had to stretch my legs. But let's go, members. We're going to do governance for GMT, and that is, of course, from page 66 to page 87. Members, do we have any questions on governance? I don't see any hands. Can we move, members, to PFMA compliance report? That is 114. Members, we're moving on to PFMA compliance report. Is there any questions on that? Members, are you present? So members, just give me a thumbs up. Are you present?
Yes, Chair.
We're present, Chair.
Okay.
I'm here, Chair.
I just get people being quiet there, so I'm worried. Members, PFMA, is there any questions on PFMA?
Nothing from my side, Chair.
Nothing from your side. Oh, you're tired now. Members, then we're gonna. I've got one or two questions, but let me just see. No, I'm gonna pass those ones. I'm gonna leave those ones. Just the one on page 120. If we can just get a explanation on that theft. On the details of material losses, the theft there. That's the question I want to ask. HOD, over to you.
Yes, I'm going to ask Anthony. Pass over to Anthony to provide an answer.
Thank you, HOD. Through you, Chairperson. The theft would relate to some vehicles that we lost to vehicle hijackings and some normal thefts from vehicles that was stationary or parked at certain locations. So that actually relates to those specific cases. CFO, can I also ask you to assist me with some additional context to that specific point?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Chairperson. So the one that you are seeing on page 120 pertains to fuel thefts. We alluded to this earlier, that PFAS case. So what we determined through our systems is that there were certain flags for vehicles that were fueling, and given the controls that we've got, they were flagged that it wasn't possible for vehicles to travel that distance. And basically that was the exception on our reports that we identified. So by further investigation, we actually determined that this 86,000 was fuel theft. It was initially included as fuel, but given that the nature of theft and the nature of fuel is different, we identified that to be theft. So we're disclosing it on this, and I can just report that we did get the refund from the service provider subsequent to year end, the full 86,000.
No, thank you very much. I know last year it was it was a major problem because I know that when they uncovered it, we had a briefing on that, so I know about that. But it seems to me under control. It seems that you have the necessary measures in place. Members, we're moving to the last portion, and that is your financial information from 124 to the end. Members, is there any questions?
We are allowing you to lead us, Chair, on this one.
I've just got one or two questions. Just elaborate more, HOD, on the legal fees on page 180. The legal fees, if you can just elaborate more on that legal fees there, and then I've got one or two more, but I'll just park that because I think everybody. Um, I don't know what to say, but the other thing I want to say is just 161. The extras fitted on the vehicles, most probably that's maybe law enforcement vehicles. The extras fitted on vehicles. If you can just give some explanation on that, and then I think I'm gonna call it. If there's no other members, then we just ask HOD for those replies, and then I'll call it the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So extra fitted, that would be, one of them would be the tracker system, but I will allow Anthony to expand to give more context to both the legal fees and further explanation on the extra fitments on the vehicles. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, HOD. CFO, may I ask that we redirect the question to you?
Yes, certainly. I'll deal with them. So on the page 180, the legal fees, this is where the fleet, the vehicle fleet, are involved in crashes and incidents. Sometimes the nature of these incidents are technical, and those cannot necessarily be investigated within GMT due to the technical nature of it. So we refer that to the state attorney for, let's say, legal advice pertaining to there's a forfeit of state cover, there's no forfeit of state cover, and what the process is pertaining to that. So that would be our legal fees which we are incurring for the state attorney. On the matter about extras, page 161, Chairperson, given the difference again, the nature of a vehicle, so we refer to it as a parent-child relationship. So the vehicle being the parent, and any extras fitted to that would be the child assets. According to the accounting framework, those are not operating expenses of nature, which goes through the income statement. We actually have to add that to the vehicle costs as extra. So typically it would be, yes, you're correct in saying it would be all extras fitted to traffic law enforcement, but the nature of them could be for other vehicle fleets as well, tow bars, rubberizing of canopies, etc. So these are the extras fitted to vehicles, and we have to disclose it separately as a separate line, as I've indicated now, because the accounting framework requires that you disclose different nature items on different lines, especially if it gets to significant monetary values. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Go ahead, HOD.
I was just trying to find out if this the answer is sufficient.
No, it's sufficient. I'm not going to go further than that. Thank you very much, HOD, for that. We are going to call it, we're going to close this meeting with the Minister and the HOD doing closing remarks. And then I'm going to ask Member Pat Lecker to do the thank yous to the department. Over to you, Minister, HOD.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to honorable members, and thank you very much to Team Mobility. Chair, I must say, we take what we have received or the questions in the right spirit, and it allows us as a department to also go back to the department and see where we can better. We can do better in terms of transparency and making sure that whatever we do within the department, the space of mobility, that there are no questions or suspicions in terms of our operations. And I think that's what we are taking out of this session. And I must say, I did preempt the question that was raised specifically from the different members. And I will be taking it back to the department to see how we can actually do better, where we need to do better. Because ultimately what we want to do, we want to serve our people without any suspicion. Thank you very much.
HOD.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to once again thank the team, mobility team, for the support in all of the achievements that's been done. And I would like to thank the members for the questions, very insightful questions. The issues raised will definitely enable us to do better in future. We'll take this into consideration as we plan our next year performance plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And Member Pedlecker is going to do the thank yous for us. Member Lecker, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much to the MEC as well as the departmental officials. More so, Chair, let me take this opportunity and appreciate a bold decision taken by the MEC, particularly on the limited bidding. This is something that we've always been raising, because not only does it open up space for ensuring that companies are regularly given work, but it closes space for other people to participate, but also it can even open up an opportunity for capturing. So some of the things that worries us, we would want to raise them over and over and over. And this decision by the MEC is well received. Hopefully, other MECs will follow suit and ensure that as we go forward, we improve our systems, that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we must continue doing business with one company instead of allowing other companies, because maybe they can even come up with some of the innovations. Having said that, I wish everyone a great weekend. Please stay safe on the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Procedural officer, I see no members of the public, so there's no members of the public. Minister and the HOD and all the officials, you are excused. The committee must still stay behind. Thank you very much and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Chair, and honorable members. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, chairs and members. Bye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davids. Can you give us some of the resolutions that you've jotted down? Over to you, Mr. Davids.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, honourable members. Chair, through you. Chair, basically, Chair, what I've jotted down, Chair, was one from Member Nkondlo, actually from Member Petrus, Chair, about the unsustainable public transport services on page 67 with the audit committee. The audit committee chairperson indicated that he can make that information available, Chair, as well as the 4 assurance engagements that was held during the financial year under review. I mean, Nkondlo, the AC Chair, said that he can also make that available, Chair. Further on, Chair, the legislations against that was used, Chair, against the audit of this department and entity, Chair, for the financial year under review. The AG indicated that they can make that directive of key pieces of legislation available to the committee chairperson. Chairperson, then as well, Chair, Chairperson, the illegal operations data, Chair, regarding cars, etc., Chair, under governance, etc. Chair, the department indicated that they can make that available, as well as the oversupply. And then Chairperson, the Go George, Member Petrus indicated that there's no CEO and no independent director and that he was not happy with that, Chairperson. And the department said that they can give us a report on that, Chairperson. Page 130, Chair. This is still on the Department of Mobility. Page 130, Chair, under Part E, the PFMA compliance. Member Lecker requested information about the GG vehicle damage and losses under Table B, which the department indicated that they can make available to us, Chairperson. Chair, that was about each Chairperson. Yeah, after that, there was just a lot of questions, Chair. But yeah, there was no further request for information, Chair. Chair, there was that Pegasus and Zotari a matter that was raised by Member Petrus and by Member Nkondlo, but the department did answer those issues, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davids. Member Petrus?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Davids. Chair, there's a lot of suspicion. I don't want to open a debate now. Maybe you don't know, or you don't have all the information. But I will ask if we can't also ask for that report, Chair, on the spending of that money for infrastructure. Where did they spend that money actually for Go George in George? They must come up with a report on that. And then, Chair, I also want us to ask for a report on how many years that two companies are still operating in Go George, and what type of work are they doing. They must specify what are they doing and the money they receive for their Chairperson. And then the last one is there's agreement for 12 years, Chair. Then they must renegotiate, and the 12 years is nearly over. What plans are in place before the 12 years? Are Go George still going to get money from government, or must municipality take over, or will JPN take over? So they still quiet about that, and they're going to wait for the 12th year, and then they want to say no, it must be extended to another 12 years and all that stuff. And we can't allow that. They must come up and tell us what are they going to do in future before the 12 years is over.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. You captured that. Member Nkondlo?
Thank you, Chair. Maybe to start where Member Petrus has ended. Indeed, we may need to request the department to come present to us on both the BRT projects in the Western Cape, especially as it relates to how much has the state spent to date from the initial time when this project was started. Both the national funding through the transport grant, including the provincial contribution. Because where we are with the BRT first phase is supposed by now to have been concluded, and it's up for that project to be handed over to go and look for the market for a private partner or player to continue with the project. So it is very worrying, Chair, that indeed, as Member Petrus had said, that we're still sitting with funding challenges of either in the Go George project, we also in the My City. So I think we need to just get the department to come here and give us that funding expenditure to date, because supposedly these projects, at a point that they would have been handed over, they would be at least self-sustaining, because the costing or projections that would have been done when the projects were undertaken were such that these projects at a certain time, when they were under being housed by the state, financed by the taxpayers' money, they will be able to be self-sufficient. That is why the very concept of the BRT. So we need to know from a financing point of view whether the money of the state, we did get value for money. So I fully concur and support Member Petrus that we do need this, and it may be anyway a joint discussion perhaps with the budget committee together with the very Department of Transport. But I think that is very important. The second one, Chair, is that we need to get the information. I'm worried about what the Chief Director of PRE has raised, of the transport regulation about the oversupply, which is that the information is there, it's in the city, and that's the information that they are relying on to represent and argue particular matters with us around the risk. So the department must provide us with that information. And further than that, if they are going to be closing any particular routes or they are not going to be extending any particular operating licenses, you see, it is important to understand what are the implications from a risk point of view, because this is why we keep on seeing, these problems of taxi violence and stuff like that. So for me, it's important just from a regulatory point of view to know when you say you've got oversupply, demonstrate with evidence that these particular routes, you've got so many passengers, based on data, and you've got so many taxis that are providing the service. And you can then, by virtue of whatever ratio, can say for one taxi, you need 12 or 20 passengers. And now when you look at the number that you have, indeed, there is a basis and justification of oversupply. Because when those operating licenses are not being renewed, we will be seeing on the roads, the violence and the sacrifice of ordinary citizens, on the streets. So it's important that we understand this as it's being as a serious risk around, the public transport services. So I think those are the two I just wanted to raise as an addition to what Mr. Davids has raised. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Davids, did you capture that?
Yes, Chairperson, I've captured that. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Is that it? Thank you, members, for the meeting. Enjoy your weekend. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.